short time ago, asked him a number of questions about what's going on with the Iran war.
Early this morning, an Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps gunboat fired at the Liberian-flagged Greek-owned container ship.
At 0217 local time, the lead Mark 8 Mod 1 SEAL delivery vehicle broke the surface 2 kilometers off Hengam Island. No lights, no radio, just black water and a low volcanic shoreline sitting at the mouth of the Strait of Hormuz, like a rock nobody important had bothered to remember. The SDV had carried 6 combat-equipped SEALs, the old way, wet, cold, and invisible. 40 seconds after it surfaced, the swimmers were in the water. 20 seconds after that, they were moving toward a beach that did not officially exist on any commercial chart worth trusting. Hengam sat only 2 kilometers off Qeshm. That mattered. Qeshm was not a tourist island anymore. Qeshm was a warehouse made of rock, tunnel complexes, underground launch bays, missile storage, backup generators, and fiber lines under stone. The Iranians had spent years learning the same lesson every military eventually learns in public and denies in private. Anything sitting out in the open eventually gets photographed, mapped, and targeted. 2 kilometers northwest, across that strip of black water, Qeshm waited with the lights off. Iranian doctrine in the strait had become painfully disciplined. Coastal defense batteries did not sit on the beach glowing for satellites. Ghadar anti-ship cruise missiles stayed cold until the last possible minute. Each one was a sea-skimming missile with a range of 200 kilometers and just enough altitude discipline to make ship crews hate geometry. The launchers hid, the sensors hid, the network did not disappear. It just stopped looking like a network. 120 nautical miles to the southeast, an Arleigh Burke-class destroyer waited behind the curve of the night with a magazine full of expensive opinions. On paper, 1 rim, 174 Standard missile, 6 cost $5,959,464 in the fiscal year 2025 Navy budget. On paper, that missile was built for aircraft, cruise missiles, and terminal ballistic missile defense. In practice, it had also learned how to ruin a surface target's day over the horizon. A $5.9 million interceptor was about to become the world's most aggressive receipt. The first SEAL reached the shale shelf under the relay compound at 0223. The compound looked civilian from the water. 1 pier, 2 prefab buildings, a fenced desalination skid, a rusted generator shack. 3 fishing skiffs pulled above the tide line for decoration. The camouflage was not stupid. That was the problem. The camouflage was excellent. The island did not look defended because the island was not the weapon. It was the extension cord. 90 miles south, an E-2D Advanced Hawkeye dragged its 24-foot rotodome through the dark at more than 300 kilonewtons, wide awake over water that never really slept. The Hawkeye was $80 million worth of airborne battle management, the fleet's eye in the sky, a flying radar dish designed to take chaos and turn it into track numbers. Beside the strike group's air picture sat a quieter feed from a P-8A Poseidon farther east, a maritime patrol aircraft built for long-range hunting with synthetic aperture radar, electro-optical sensors, and the unsettling ability to process passive and active returns at the same time. 1 aircraft watched the sky, 1 read the water and the coast. Together, they were less a patrol than an audit. The team leader touched the fence, cut, moved. The second man planted the first charge beneath the generator housing. Not a big charge, not movie explosives, just enough to tear the housing, trip backup systems, and make people deeper in the network ask why their heartbeat had changed. A guard stepped out of the prefab doorway with a cigarette and a radio he did not get to use. 2 suppressed shots. He folded where he stood. The cigarette kept burning. 30 miles southwest, under a cloud deck, too thin to trust and too thick to enjoy, an EA-18G Growler orbited with 3 jamming pods under its wings and a combat radius of more than 850 nautical miles. In the configuration, Navy fact sheets, love and planners politely pretend not to notice. The Growler existed for one job: to make the enemy's electronics feel stupid. The aircraft's ALQ-218 receivers listened. Its jamming suite waited. Its APG-79 AESA radar remained ready if listening turned into pointing. If the island network woke up, the Growler would be there to make every follow-on decision worse. The genius of the Iranian setup was its patience. Passive electro-optical cameras on the smaller islands, buried fiber where possible, microwave hops only when needed, mobile launchers inside hardened cuts, fast boats undercover, mines held back until traffic compressed into the 2-mile shipping lanes. Iran was not designed to win a fleet battle in blue water. It was designed to make the narrowest water on Earth feel too expensive to cross. That is a different kind of victory, and in choke points, it pays well. At 0228, the second guard finally understood he was hearing the wrong sounds. He came out hard, rifle up, and caught the third seal coming around the desalination unit. The burst went high. Return fire did not. 3 rounds punched through aluminum siding behind him, 1 through the throat. He dropped backward into the doorway. The room inside held exactly what the planners had prayed for and the island had denied. Signal racks, fiber termination panels, shielded cases, battery backups, not a missile in sight. 2 kilometers northwest on Qeshm, an underground operations room registered the first fault exactly 11 seconds after the charge armed. The island node did not vanish from the board. It hiccuped. That mattered too. If a storm cut power, the system reacted one way. If human beings cut power, the system reacted another. The Iranian watch officer on duty had drilled the backup protocol enough times to trust it. Isolate the node, wake the secondary microwave link, spin up local generation at the nearest buried launcher cluster, shift targeting authority 1 layer inland. Clever, fast, professional. He did not hesitate. He hit execute. The first charge went off at 0230. The generator shack came apart in a flat orange slap that did not look dramatic from the beach and looked enormous on the signal board. Power dipped. Battery banks kicked in. Contingency routing started exactly as designed. Antennas that had spent the night pretending to be dead suddenly had a reason to be alive. The relay on Hengam did not go silent. It screamed in a language only machines and unhappy analysts understand. What the island garrison did not know was that the charges on Hengam were never meant to destroy the network. They were meant to make the rest of it introduce itself. 80 miles south of the strait, the Hawkeye's scope thickened, not with aircraft, with behavior. New emissions, short bursts, then longer ones. A fire control radar on Larak, 2 point-to-point microwave links on Qeshm, vehicle movement at one buried entrance that had been a cold rectangle on the P-8A's synthetic aperture image 9 minutes earlier. Another thermal bloom near a launch cut facing the traffic lanes. The hidden island had done its job. It had made a distributed kill chain stop being distributed. The SEALs were already moving to the pier. No trophy shots, no long firefight. Their work on Hengam had lasted less than 8 minutes. One combat rubber raft came out from under camo netting. Another charge went under the antenna mast. The point man paused only once, looking back toward the prefab building where one surviving technician crawled toward the corner radio shack. The technician got there. He keyed the handset. The mast charge detonated before he finished the second syllable. 120 nautical miles southeast. The destroyer received the fire mission with almost insulting clarity. 2 surface targets tied to active emitters, 1 mobile radar on Larak, and 1 launcher support vehicle edging out of a cut on southern Qeshm. The captain did not need a speech. The vertical launch system cells opened, 2 SM-6s left in succession, each missile accelerating downrange at roughly 1.03 kilometers per second, better understood by frightened people as over Mach 3, more than 3 times the speed of sound. The first one was hunting a radar truck. The second was hunting a launcher that had just made the poor decision to become a coordinate. The island was small. The bill arriving over it was not. 24 miles east of the choke point, Larak woke up too late. The radar team there had one real advantage. Their island was tied more directly to Hormuz traffic monitoring, and that meant more redundancy. more alternate routes, more confidence. It meant the truck-mounted radar rolled clear of its netting. Power climbed. Sweep started. For 3 seconds, the crew had the only thing every coastal defense battery wants in the opening minute of a fight: a fresh picture. Then the first SM-6 arrived like a guided telephone pole with anger issues. There was no warhead drama worth describing. At that speed, impact wrote its own obituary. 2 kilometers northwest, on southern Qeshm, the second SM-6 caught the launcher support vehicle halfway through its turn toward a hardened cut. The crew never got the missile canister fully elevated. The truck stopped being a truck. The cut behind it took the blast, the overpressure, and a rain of burning fragments that forced the tunnel team to shut the outer door before the fire spread deeper inside. Somewhere in Tehran, a spreadsheet had just become a condolence letter. At 0, 2, 3, 4, the backup plan kept working. That was the problem. More generators came online. Tunnel ventilation fans spun up. Another microwave relay lit farther inland. The Gator batteries were doing exactly what doctrine told them to do after outer node compromise. Reconstitute, redistribute, prepare to salvo before American aircraft could flatten the network. It was good doctrine. It had probably passed several presentations with very impressive maps, but doctrine is just a machine for repeating your assumptions at scale. 70 nautical miles south, the Growler stopped listening and started editing. Jamming flooded selected bands. Not enough to blind every Iranian unit in the sector, just enough to widen uncertainty at exactly the wrong moment. The effect was beautifully rude. Hind voice circuits filled with repeats. Authentication chains slowed. A launch unit on Qeshm got a warning late. Another got it twice. A boat detachment heard an execute order and then lost the update that changed its route. Electronic warfare rarely looks cinematic. It looks administrative. It turns war into a meeting where half the room has the wrong document. 35 nautical miles west of Hengam, under the heat clutter of the shipping approach, 6 IRGC fast attack craft shoved off from camouflage pens and accelerated toward the lanes. Their plan was not suicide. It was synchronized harassment. Boats low in the water, coastal missiles held ashore, passive cues from the islands. If an American ship maneuvered for one threat, it exposed itself to another. If it stayed rigid, the geometry closed around it. In a strait with lanes 2 miles wide, clever navigation starts to look like confession. The SEAL team reached the extraction point at 2:37. One man carried a wound through the left sleeve, clean through muscle. Not life-ending and very much morale-ending. Another dragged a hard case taken from the signal room because intelligence officers are greedy in ways bullets cannot cure. Behind them, the pier charges went off. One skiff flipped, then another. Fuel flashed across the water under the timbers. The hidden island lost its civilian mask, one piece at a time. 2 kilometers northwest, Qeshm tried to fire anyway. A launcher crew got one cotter pin out before the jamming and blast effects upstream collapsed their shot sequence. The missile left its trail clean, dropped to sea-skimming profile, and headed for coordinates that had been valid before the Americans started tearing pages out of the script. That was the losing side's genius moment. For almost 20 seconds, the whole Iranian design was visible at once. Hidden islands, buried launchers, distributed sensors, narrow water. Cheap geography turned into expensive targeting. If the timing had held, a ship in the lane would have had a very long night. 100 miles south, the Aegis screen did the part America has spent decades funding. The track appeared, smooth, classified, assigned. Another SM-6 left the destroyer and climbed before diving into the intercept basket. This was where the missile justified every brochure ever written about it. One weapon, anti-air warfare, terminal ballistic defense, anti-surface strike. More like a Swiss Army knife if the knife cost $5,959,464 and traveled fast enough to end arguments at long range. The intercept happened beyond the horizon of everybody who mattered and in full view of every censor that would write the report later. 300 nautical miles to the southwest, a submarine that had not taken part yet finally got invited. 4 Tomahawk Block 5 cruise missiles came out of the sea, one after another, and turned northeast. Each missile, a $2,114,906 problem traveling at high subsonic speed toward fixed targets that had just revealed themselves. Tomahawk was not fast. That was its limitation. It did not need to be. It could be retargeted in flight, pushed toward alternate coordinates, and loiter near a target area if commanders needed another look before spending more of the Republic. Tonight, the missiles already had addresses. The first Tomahawk aimed for a ventilator complex above the main buried launcher cluster on southern Qeshm. The second targeted a fuel and power node tied to the same cluster. The third went for a microwave relay hub farther inland. The fourth flew toward a secondary entrance on Larak that the P-8A had only just confirmed by the heat of the door motors. 4 missiles, 4 fixed points, 4 very expensive ways of telling a tunnel network that secrecy had expired. At 2:47 local time, everything arrived at once. 2 kilometers off Hengam, the SEALs shoved the raft into the water as tracers finally reached the beach from a guard tower that had survived the earlier charges by being irrelevant. The wounded operator slid in first. The hard case went after him. The team leader turned, fired 6 rounds at the tower, and got exactly what he wanted. Heads down, no heroics, move. 2 kilometers northwest on Qeshm, the first Tomahawk punched into the ventilator compound and folded the structure inward, burying the airflow and overpressuring the gallery behind it. The second hit the power node 3 seconds later. A 1,000-pound class warhead does not make a neat Hollywood fireball in a hardened military site. It makes systems stop. Generators jumped, then failed. The outer tunnel lights died. Diesel storage became weather. 24 miles east, on Larak, the 4th Tomahawk hit the secondary entrance just as a launcher crew tried to pull a second vehicle out under smoke. Door, truck, and the concrete lip became one moving idea for half a second. Then they became debris. The radar site there was already gone from the earlier SM-6 strike. Now, the escape route was gone too. The island remained. Its military usefulness did not. 35 nautical miles west, the fast attack craft surged into the approach with no clean targeting updates and too much confidence left over from the briefing. AP-8A at altitude watched their wakes draw white scars through black water. The boats were small, fast, and dangerous in the exact environment they had been built for. They just were not operating inside a working kill chain anymore. One turned north toward a lane marker that no longer mattered. Another slowed when its encrypted set died. A third kept coming straight, which is the maritime version of handing your paperwork directly to the gun line. 70 nautical miles south, the Growler shifted its jamming focus again. Not broad, not theatrical, just precise enough to make the surviving Iranian boats and shore batteries disagree about what still existed. Somewhere inside the noise, one commander asked for confirmation from Hengam. Hengam could not answer. Another asked Larak for picture. Larak was having a structural issue. Qeshm still had men, weapons, and tunnels, but the calm sequence of steps that made those assets dangerous had been reduced to overlapping improvisations. America did not kill the whole network in one blow. It made the network miss its own cue. On the beach at Hengam, the last mast came down in sparks. One of the radio shacks burned with the petty fury of cheap electronics and paint. One of the SEALs looked back only long enough to confirm what mattered. No surviving antenna, no intact pier, no usable generators, no quiet relay to feed the larger machine. The hidden island had not been captured. It had been unmasked. The raft engine caught. Low throttle. Then more. The team cleared the surf line just as a burst from the surviving tower stitched across the water behind them. Too late. The sea was already giving them back to the dark. Farther out, the SDV waited at a dead stop like a black coffin with excellent navigation. The extraction would be miserable. Wet again. Slow again. The kind of misery special operations people take as proof that the mission is still going well. On Qeshm, the surviving launch crews did the professional thing and kept trying. One team attempted manual comms through a buried line that had not been cut, only orphaned. Another tried to drag a launcher to an alternate cut north of the first strike area. They were not incompetent. They were trapped inside a network built for orchestration after the conductor had been shot, jammed, and buried under concrete. Comment sections: love idiots. Real fights usually feature professionals discovering that one missing assumption can kill an entire concept. At 2:54, the third Tomahawk hit the inland relay hub and finished the argument. Microwave paths died across the sector. One cluster on Qeshm still had missiles. Another still had fuel. A third still had men with working rifles and surviving trucks. None of that mattered enough now. The little islands had gone from a layered denial architecture to isolated pockets of armed frustration. The military pieces had not all been physically destroyed. They had become unable to do the thing they existed to do at the speed the strait demanded. 120 nautical miles southeast, the destroyer's Combat Information Center watched the board simplify. Emissions dropped. Track quality on surface threats degraded in the good way. The 2-mile shipping lanes through the strait still looked narrow, still looked exposed, still looked like a terrible place to become famous. But the coordinated envelope that had made those lanes deadly was collapsing into local, disconnected threats. That is the kind of moment naval officers remember forever and explain badly later. At 2:59, the fast attack craft reversed course in 2s and 3s, not routed, just done. Without clean island queuing, and with the American sensor picture fully awake, staying out there meant donating boats to somebody else's professional development. One burning craft drifted broadside, hid in the engine compartment by fire no public release would ever describe in satisfying detail. Another made it into the shoals and vanished under a cliff overhang. The rest withdrew under smoke, spray, and a growing understanding that tonight's exercise in asymmetric brilliance had become a live demonstration of invoice-based warfare. 30 minutes after the first charge on Hengam, the eastern mouth of the Strait of Hormuz looked strangely empty. The islands were still there. Qeshm still loomed dark and massive. Larak still sat there like a broken tooth. Hengam still had beaches, rock, narrow roads, and the remains of a fake civilian pier. But the active military shape across that patch of sea had been erased. No clean radar picture, no synchronized missile queuing, no outer island relay, no confident boat screen pushing into the lanes. Everything that had made the trap a trap had disappeared. The SEALs re-entered the SDV at 0302, hatch shut, systems checked, flooded again. The wounded man breathed hard and steady. The hard case got clipped into place between knees and gear like it was worth the pain, which it probably was. The pilot pointed the nose seaward. No cheering, no speech. The ocean above them looked black through the instruments and stayed black as the little submersible crept back toward deeper water and the much larger machinery waiting beyond the horizon. 2 kilometers northwest, Qeshm burned in 3 separate places and lied about all of them. Tunnel fires always lie. Smoke comes out where the damage is not. Heat blooms where the fuel line broke, not where the guidance package cooked off. Men run to the wrong entrance because the right one is already choking on its own emergency procedures. Somewhere below the rock, Iranian crews still had missiles in boxes, rifles on shoulders, and a very bad sunrise ahead of them. But they had lost the first half hour. In the Strait of Hormuz, that can be the whole war. The cleverness of the Iranian plan would be studied later for exactly the reason it failed. It respected the geography. It respected American surveillance. It spread out the risk. It used islands as sensors instead of billboards. It nearly worked. And the single thing it did not account for was an enemy willing to spend a small fortune just to make the hidden parts of the system reveal themselves. Iran had built a distributed kill chain. America had shown up with the world's most expensive light switch. By 0310, the surviving microwave links were dark by choice, not damage. No one ashore wanted to be the next coordinate. That was the final insult. The network had been built to control the choke point. Now, it was afraid to turn on. The strait did not become safe. Nothing that moves 1/5 of the world's oil ever gets to be safe. It just became survivable again for the side that had won the timing. Behind the first line of islands, emergency crews rolled, commanders shouted, and backup maps came out. On the American side, the destroyer reset cells, and the Hawkeye kept orbiting. The Growler kept listening for anyone dumb enough to start broadcasting again, and the submarine turned away with 3 Tomahawks left unfired. Somewhere in a defense company boardroom, the next sales presentation had just written itself. If you enjoyed this video, check out the other video on Iran's attempt to close the Strait of Hormuz. Bye for now.